Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thanks again for joining our webinar this morning, Automation for Devs with the Atlassian Suite. This is the second webinar in our DevTools series. We are recording this webinar and we'll email you a link to that recording over the next few days. The email will also include a link to register for our next webinar. On our next webinar, the final in our DevTools series, we'll cover DevOps with the Atlassian Suite. That's taking place on May 4th at 11 a.m. Central. And it's going to be led by our very own Principal of Technical Delivery, Brian B. Rob Robison. And this webinar is going to delve into best practices and Atlassian product use cases for optimizing your development operations. If any of y'all have read Puppet Lab's 2015 State of DevOps report, you know that lean processes and continuous delivery practices help teams deploy up to 30 times faster. And we'll be the first to say that Atlassian is a huge part of that. So be sure to register for this webinar either on our website or from the link you'll receive in the email of today's webinar recording. As you have questions, be sure to type those in the questions box of the GoToWebinar control panel. We'll get those queued up and we will try our best to answer all of them towards the end of this session. On the webinar today from Principio Consulting, we have Stephen Kling. Stephen is our Principal of Development here, leading our team of very talented developers. And you might have seen him about 2 weeks ago at DocuSign's Momentum Conference, where he introduced DocuSign for CONFLUENCE, a new product our dev team has been building. And my name is Evan Perkins. I'm a sales consultant here at Principio Consulting. I love tacos, like Austin, and optimizing my JIRA screen schemes. A little bit about Principio Consulting. We've been Atlassian expert partners for over 6 years now and are one of 5 platinum enterprise experts in the country. Over 99% of our projects are Atlassian related, and we've helped hundreds of clients across the globe, ranging in size from 20-person companies to Fortune 20 enterprises spanning many different industries. We help our clients with process-centric technology solutions that facilitate traditional business process management, IT service management based on ITIL, and software development lifecycles. In the SDLC space, we're helping clients transition from traditional waterfall to the agile methodology. So whatever widgets you produce, we help improve the quality and throughput at the lowest cost. We support our clients in all facets of the Atlassian product suite and build methodologies and solutions across the entire product line. Solutions architecting and implementations, licensing, upgrades and maintenance, managed hosting, managed services, integrations, add-on development, and training. And now I'm going to hand things over to Stephen.
Thanks for the introduction, Evan. I'm Steve, Principal and Head of Principio's Development Group, where we use the integrated Atlassian suite from start to finish to create add-ons like the DocuSign integration suite for JIRA, CONFLUENCE, and HipChat. From using CONFLUENCE requirements blueprints to capture our use cases, all the way through to deploying our add-ons with Bamboo, and everything in between, we find the seamless integrations between Atlassian applications guide the way we work and enforce agile practices as a team. This improves our group communication and saves us tons of time and money and provides crucial traceability through our development process. Today we're going to start with a brief overview of the Atlassian dev tools. So most of you are probably familiar with JIRA and CONFLUENCE, but did you know that there are actually 7 tools that comprise the dev tool stack? We're going to take a look at each one and how each one plays a role in creating and maintaining a high quality product. The more clear and simple the process, the easier it is to maintain. So to that end, we're going to discuss 3 themes that we feel are essential to keeping things simple: integration, collaboration, and automation. Then when we finish, we'll take some time to answer your questions if you have any, so be sure to send a few along. Before we talk themes, let's talk about Atlassian's dev tool stack for a bit. Atlassian makes a lot of products. There's software for everything from project management and issue tracking, to team collaboration, to source code management, code review and coverage, and to continuous integration and delivery. CONFLUENCE and JIRA are industry standards for team collaboration, project management, and issue tracking, combined with the development tool stack that comprises the products you see here: Bitbucket and SourceTree for source code management, FishEye, Crucible, and Clover for code review and coverage, and Bamboo for continuous integration, release automation, and deployment. You probably already know that CONFLUENCE is a great tool for collaboration. All kinds of teams use it for sharing content, documenting processes, creating knowledge bases, and capturing their meeting notes. But it turns out Confluence is also perfect for defining product requirements. And did you know that it's possible to turn those requirements into JIRA issues instantly? You don't even have to leave Confluence to do it. When connected to JIRA, Confluence has the ability to create JIRA issues right from the requirements on a page. And if you're using a table to record your requirements, Confluence can create all of those issues for you automatically with a couple of clicks. Another benefit is the automatic bidirectional linking created between JIRA and Confluence. Your JIRA links show up in Confluence, and your Confluence links show up in JIRA. This keeps things simple for developers since there's always a link back to the original product requirement for the issue or feature they are working on. It provides traceability to product owners, which is a huge win for them. Our teams live in the JIRA Software Agile boards. We've molded our process into the tool set from the very start, so it really drives everything that we do. Every 2 weeks, we use the sprint planning board to quickly drag and drop our stories, tasks, and bugs into upcoming sprints. We use it for backlog grooming too, of course, and again, use simple drag and drop to re-rank the issues based upon a project's ever-shifting priorities. We start our day with the Scrum boards that drive our stand-up meetings. It gives me, the product owner, at-a-glance visualization on what's being worked, what's blocked, and what's next. We can quickly react to all the expected unexpecteds every project invariably has, and it improves our team communication exponentially. For sprint retrospectives, we use the auto-generated reports to gauge burn down and velocity, and with one click, we generate retrospective documentation in Confluence that links itself back to the sprint, which makes it super easy to record team feedback, fold that back into our practices, and report continued progress to management. Bitbucket, Atlassian's cloud offering, is perfect for small to medium-sized teams and those that may be working on open-source projects or code bases meant to be shared with the public. Whereas Bitbucket Enterprise is aimed at larger teams who need to keep their code secure behind the firewall. SourceTree is Atlassian's free Git and Mercurial client. It helps teams visualize their repositories and perform common and complex operations. I myself am an old-school Git command liner, but even so, I'm not a fan of command line diffs, and DVCS tools like Git have enormous power and versatility that can be rather esoteric. So I still use SourceTree constantly for more complex commands and visualizing merge conflicts, etc. Of course, that makes it the perfect tool for teams that might be new to Git and users who don't have a lot of experience with command line. Atlassian's tools like Crucible and Bitbucket allow you to review, discuss, and modify your code before it gets into the shared repository. Crucible accomplishes this through support for pre-commit reviews. Bitbucket uses the pull request to provide quick and easy ways to review changes made on a branch, discuss those changes, and make further modifications before the branch is merged. Bitbucket lets you comment on a pull request as a whole, at the file level, or even inline to pinpoint questions or concerns. Both tools are ideal complements to drive the code review process, particularly with modern distributed teams like ours that can't always be in the same room together at the same time. Branch and repository level permissions control and restrict which users and groups can merge, protecting your source. Combine this with Bamboo's continuous integration plans associated with your branches to further enforce quality compliance. By associating build plans with a branch, successful plan builds and tests can be prerequisites for any merge to protected branches, virtually eliminating breaks. FishEye is an essential tool for providing a read-only window into your Subversion, Perforce, or CVS repositories, and any Git and Mercurial repositories that aren't managed by Bitbucket. Crucible allows you to review code, discuss changes, share knowledge, and identify defects with its flexible review workflow and code coverage metrics for Subversion, Perforce, and CVS. And Clover is Atlassian's tool for Java and Groovy code coverage and runs in your IDE or your continuous integration system. It includes test optimization to make sure your test runs faster and fail more quickly. Bamboo is Atlassian's continuous integration and delivery tool that ties automated builds, tests, and releases together in a single workflow. As I mentioned, it perfectly integrates with both JIRA and Bitbucket, providing a fully traceable deployment cycle. Its flexibility allows us to even automate portions of previously manual release processes to include dev to production file swaps, add code obfuscation like WYGuard to protect proprietary source, auto-version Maven builds, and of course deploy automatically contingent on successful CI build and test suites. Bamboo is available both in the cloud and behind the firewall. The latest version includes support for creating build agents using Docker, which has become one of our favorite new tools, allowing us to run multiple remote agents on the same host without conflict, and easily configure and deploy multiple versions and configurations of Atlassian's platform with minimal effort and instantaneous reuse. So most of y'all are probably already familiar with a few of the Atlassian tools, so instead of deeper dives into each, we're going to want to look at how they all work together to make your teams work more efficiently and make your life easier. So what exactly are the benefits of integration? So many of y'all already use and love integrated technology. If you're an Apple user, the product and software are all built to seamlessly connect, so a function in one will populate the same result across all your devices. This eliminates the need to manually synchronize critical information across your tools, which not only saves time, but it also ensures nothing gets dropped. And with all the things we have to juggle these days, both personally and at work, this is often the difference between getting it done and something important getting missed. When Principio Consulting co-presented with Splunk at last year's summit, we were able to report that just with the implementation and integration of JIRA software in Bitbucket, they were able to produce 14% faster on their releases and 23% more issues were closed. This provides perhaps the best real-world example that I can think of from a development manager's perspective. So you've met the key players. Now, as we add them one on top of the other, our ROI is going to increase accordingly, and our quality and capacity is going to grow dramatically. We start work in JIRA, browsing our assigned issues, or combing through the current sprint's backlog for a new feature to develop or bug to fix. But developers get heads down pretty quick, and disconnects between the JIRA issue status and actual progress can develop just as fast. The question becomes, how do we more tightly couple the JIRA status with actual progress? JIRA's development panel aims to address just that. Towards that end, it provides the following functionality. We can now create Bitbucket story-based branches, view and create pull requests, view commits, and even automate workflow steps according to merge activity. We can view commits, view branches, view and create reviews in FishEye and Crucible, and in Bamboo, we can even view the status of builds and deployments in real time. And if you use GitHub or GitHub Enterprise instead of Bitbucket, the panel functions in read-only mode to view commits, branches, and pull requests in that DVCS system as well. Bamboo is Atlassian's tool for continuous integration and delivery. It supports integration with open source tools to build, test, and deploy all kinds of applications, which can be triggered automatically by changes in your various DVCS repositories. In addition to running builds and tests, Bamboo was designed to integrate with JIRA and Bitbucket to provide streamlined traceability throughout your development process. Some of its features include automatic branch detection, which triggers your continuous integration plans based upon the activities you specify. You can configure multiple build triggers, which can launch tests at scheduled intervals throughout the day for snapshots and nightly builds, or set up a trigger to monitor your repository so tests are executed each time a change is made. Build plans can be linked to create stepped plans to gradually increase the complexity of your automated tests to fail quickly and minimize your reaction times. Bamboo makes understanding tests easy by automatically aggregating results into dashboards that you can drill down into to view each result of each test. We'll cover Docker in great detail coming in our June webinar, but here are the top 5 reasons we love it so much. It's easy to deploy, it's lightweight, collaborative, it resets when it's done, and best of all, it integrates with Bamboo seamlessly. Because we've integrated our JIRA projects, Bitbucket repositories, and Bamboo build and deployment plans with our team HIP chat rooms, we get instant updates from those systems along each step of the development process. When feature branches are created, committed, and merged, when pull requests are opened, rejected, and approved, and instant knowledge of the status of associated Bamboo builds or deployments. Each of these allow team members to single-click review and address directly from their HIP chat screens, making chat ops an integral part of our daily lives. The final piece of functionality I'd like to mention today should be any Scrum Master's personal favorite because it really closes the loop between the JIRA issue driving each feature or task and the actual progress being accomplished, and that is the workflow triggers. Once configured inside your JIRA workflows, workflow triggers synchronize your JIRA issue status with information from your development tools, Bitbucket, FishEye, Crucible, and Bamboo, so developers no longer have to update JIRA manually. For example, triggers can be set so that creating a branch moves an issue from to do to in progress, and merging a pull request moves an issue from in progress to resolved. Finally, issues can be transitioned from resolved to closed just by doing a release merge into master. We find this kind of automation keeps our agile boards much more in step with reality, which is crucial to improve adoption and maintain adherence to process. In JIRA 6.4, Atlassian introduced Release Hub, a new way to show real-time version progress and release code directly from JIRA. With Release Hub, you can view commits, builds, and deployments related to each issue, spot potential development issues before they're released to staging or production, and cut a release directly from Release Hub itself. Now let's check in on our Rambler team and see how they use automation for their development processes. We met the team in our last webinar, but you'll be glad to hear that Rambler's team is still working on cranking out their HipChat Connect add-ons. They've been working on their next version release of æWHY and want to make sure their cadence is such that they can release often, regularly fix bugs, and add features to keep customers happy. Naturally, they start in Confluence. The dev team working on æWHY gathers their requirements in Confluence because it allows for remote collaboration, versioning, and social features to enhance the overall quality and input on important documents like requirements. They've also created a requirements blueprint in Confluence in order to standardize the way their team documents these things. So from inside Confluence, they can create their JIRA issue to begin taking action on those requirements. You can see that previous requirements are already noted with their corresponding JIRA issue, marked with the real-time JIRA issue status for an at-a-glance reference. So here's the issue that was created in JIRA software from Confluence. Unlike JIRA Core, JIRA software contains a few additional automated features we just covered, as well as real-time progress information in the development panel. We mentioned HipChat earlier, and one of their favorite things to do now is to spin up HipChat rooms related specifically to JIRA issues by spawning that room directly from the JIRA ticket itself. They also use it to inspect commits, Bamboo builds, and to create feature branches directly from the issue. With a single click on Create Branch in the development panel, the team can create a feature or bug branch in Bitbucket that automatically links itself to the JIRA issue. Our dev team is now ready to check out the branch locally and start work on that shiny new feature. In Bamboo, the Rambler team automatically builds every 30 minutes, so a new build is always run after new code is committed. Because Rambler uses ChatOps with HipChat, their project manager gets notifications in the room when a build is successfully completed, or when something goes wrong. By using a set of pre-configured Docker containers, Rambler chains a number of Bamboo plans together that build their æWHY add-on against multiple HipChat versions to ensure any loss in backward compatibility is immediately identified and quickly addressed. We'll of course cover a lot more of Docker in depth in our June Docker webinar. As all of this has been happening in the dev tools, JIRA software is updating in real time, so when Numbiko, the project manager for the Rambler team, needs to see what her team's been doing, she can quickly see their progress as is tracked in the development panel of the JIRA issue. Rambler stakeholders, of course, love their dev team, but don't have time or expertise to go over each branch and bug. That's why they appreciate project overview and planning they get from Portfolio from JIRA. With real-time updates, their executives always know they're on schedule for the next release. And this is my favorite part, where I get to talk about exactly how we use these products in our own development process. Our team is currently working on the first release of our latest product suite, DocuSign for Atlassian. Our first product being DocuSign for Confluence, with JIRA and HipChat to follow later this summer. Our use of the integrated and automated Atlassian suite allows us to minimize time devoted to process compliance and maximize our time on task. We do so the following ways. We've tightly integrated our practice with the tool sets, and we make extensive use of automation. This facilitates our group communication, and it keeps collective knowledge up to date. This does a few things for us. It improves project visualization, it decreases our reaction time on bugs and regressions, and it maximizes our team throughput. So today we covered Atlassian's development tool stack and how it integrates from conception through to deployment. From Confluence to documenting requirements, to JIRA as our hub to track each feature and bug to resolution, run our team sprints, manage resources, and report on every level of the development process, to Bitbucket and code review and coverage tools, FishEye, Crucible, and Clover to improve communication and QA efforts, to Bamboo for continuous integration and automated deployment, all of which feed back into JIRA and ultimately back into Confluence to close the communication loop with rock-solid traceability that ensures compliance and will make your teams more productive, deliver better product, and keep everyone happy, teammates, managers, and customers alike. And now it's time for some questions, and I see there's some already out there, so let's go ahead and get started.
All right. Thank you so much, Stephen. Very helpful. Appreciate you taking us through that. And yeah, we do have quite a few questions stacking up. So let's go ahead and get started with those. The first one here is somebody asks, how difficult is it to integrate our JIRA instance with Bitbucket and Bamboo?
Thanks. Well, it's nice to start with an easy question. It's a very easy answer. So basically, anyone with admin privileges can set up what's called an application link for you between any of the Atlassian products, and so that essentially sets up an OAuth-based bidirectional link between the two applications, and you essentially from that process you get integrations, your panels, dashboard gadgets, and all that essentially comes automatically through that deployment.
Awesome, very good. All right, this next question, what's the difference between Bitbucket Enterprise and GitHub Enterprise?
Well, there's some minor feature differences between the two. Both are behind the firewall installs of their corresponding cloud-based products. GitHub Enterprise has a few more graphs and commit charts and basically some additional shiny things. But essentially, the reason I prefer Bitbucket, not just because I'm a little bit more familiar with its interface, but it's just a lot cheaper. We find that tends to be a big winner when they go head-to-head with different companies. And GitHub Enterprise runs on a VM appliance, which is just an architecture choice that they made. Whereas as Bitbucket can run, in a VM or on bare metal, etc. So I've worked with different companies, and they've had some performance issues with GitHub Enterprise. One in particular had a fairly near catastrophic data loss in one instance with that, but I can't speak much more to that essentially. But they're more or less equivalent, but I would just say Bitbucket's much cheaper and more versatile.
Great. Somebody else is asking, do you know if Bamboo will integrate with Perforce? And would you need to use any additional software like FishEye or something?
So, yeah, that's a good question. You want to use FishEye or Crucible when you're using a different version control system like SVN or Perforce. Bitbucket itself and Bitbucket and GitHub, it's also, but specifically Bitbucket works with Mercurial and Git only. So those other products that I mentioned are the ones that you would want to use if you're using some other version control system.
Great, thanks. Here's a question on SourceTree. It said you mentioned SourceTree, you're using that. When you make a commit, do you have to manually put in a JIRA key in each commit message? How do those two things talk to each other?
So yeah, the way it works is I don't want to get too technical, but basically what happens is there's regex that looks for the JIRA issue key in the commit message, or if the feature branch is named containing that JIRA issue key, then that's how the link is established.
Very good. All right, we'll just continue down the list here. Lots of good questions. Keep them coming. Here's a bit of another path. Somebody asked the question on HipChat, and they say, can you talk a little more, provide a little more color around how HipChat fits into your processes?
It's another easy one. We use HipChat minute by minute. I mean, constantly. For our distributed teams, it's essential to our communication. I think the best thing I like about it is that I don't have to use my brain to remember things anymore. I have a way of going back and conversations and various things that I've agreed to, or if there's some sort of information that's been exchanged between me and my teammates, I can go back and read it again without having to bother them. But the nicest thing about it is that because it's integrated the rest of the tool suite that we use and we have so much automation, if there is a PR that's sent in Bitbucket from one of the team members, regardless of whether he's here or in Vermont, or if there's a Bamboo CI build that fails or something, we get that in line directly into our rooms in between the conversations that we're having. So nothing goes unnoticed. People don't have to go around begging everyone offline to try to get a PR reviewed and approved. That information comes directly into our ChatOps experience.
Awesome. We'll see if Atlassian goes for maybe a new marketing line for HipChat. You can turn your brain off. Maybe not. Okay, somebody asks a question on, they said they've taken one class on Git, presumably online. They still don't quite understand what a pull request is. So can you explain a little more in detail, what is a pull request in Git?
Okay, so if you know what a merge in Git is, then you pretty much know what a pull request is. It's essentially a merge, but it allows for a collaborative review and approval process around said merge. So in Bitbucket, for instance, we protect it by gates, which are essentially rules. For instance, like X number of reviewers have to approve that merge, or you can even tie it to, like we do, we tie it to a CI build in Bamboo and say that, okay, this PR has to be built in Bamboo first in order for that to complete. So if one of my team members makes a pull request into our develop branch, we'll get that notification in HipChat that that's happened. I'll click directly through HipChat into that pull request. I will review it. I can make comments against the pull request as a whole, or I can make comments directly in line specifically as to why. For instance, if I need to decline that pull request, I can specifically link that to a comment on a very specific line of code, for instance. And then, of course, if I approve it, then there may be we may have a threshold of 2 or 3 approvers for that pull request. And then the Bamboo CI build has to also be successful. And then that person can merge direct into the development branch. And it just saves us a lot of time.
Cool. Thanks for explaining that. Okay, somebody, I guess, is having it's too good to be true. Maybe they're asking, how does Bamboo know what to build to ensure a merge doesn't break the development branch? Can you explain this a little bit more?
So Bamboo is like any program; it's only as smart as you make it, right? But basically, Bamboo is, if you think of it as a simple collection of jobs that can run in series or parallel that are associated with the DVCS repository. So when we create a build plan, I say, okay, this is linked to this repository, make it listen for changes or new commits to this repository, and then run these various things. And those things can be anything. Anything that essentially can be run with a command line interface can be made into a task or a job in Bamboo. So let's say, for instance, like in our case, you have some Selenium scripts running with a plugin that we use called Charlotte. Those Selenium scripts can be run against your latest release or your latest branch to make sure that there are no defects that are introduced from the client side perspective. Or let's give you another example that I've used it in the past, and that is you can run JMeter or JUnit scripts to provide scale testing against your suite, or run your unit test scripts outside of Maven if you wanted to do that. So essentially, it just lets you chain together those various build and test processes, and then integrate that back with things, as I mentioned before, like the Bitbucket pull request to allow you to make decisions faster.
Right, our next question, can you explain what JIRA and GitHub looks like? So I guess using both of those tools, how does JIRA integrate with GitHub?
So, as I mentioned before, if you're using Bitbucket, it's just an application link. But if you're using GitHub or GitHub Enterprise, then JIRA has a plugin called the DVCS plugin. I believe it's been bundled with JIRA software. Now going back to like JIRA 6.4 or something like that. But anyway, the DVCS plugin essentially allows you to integrate with either of those DVCS products. But unlike Bitbucket, the integration with GitHub is unidirectional, which basically means that you're not going to get any of the JIRA features in GitHub. They're not going to provide those links back to the respective JIRA issues. For instance, if you have a story or feature branch that you have in GitHub, you won't be able to conveniently link back to the JIRA issue there. And I found it to be a little bit less stable. They use various set of webhooks that if they don't install properly, it can get a little bit I don't want to say fragile, but it's just a little bit more fragile and not quite as integrated with JIRA as Bitbucket is for obvious reasons.
Next one is a great clarifying question. Somebody is asking about, they say Bitbucket Cloud, then there's Bitbucket Enterprise, Source Tree. Can you please explain the differences again? And also they mentioned Stash at the end of the question. So maybe, Bitbucket Cloud, Enterprise, Source Tree, where does Stash fit in?
So yeah, lots of people that are just kind of associating, getting familiar with Git and the entire ecosystem that's been built around it. That some of these names and acronyms and things can get kind of confusing. So basically, Stash, just to answer that last part, is the old name for what we now call Bitbucket Enterprise. So Atlassian rebranded as Bitbucket Enterprise, and Bitbucket Cloud versus its enterprise offering they're somewhat self-descriptive, but one is that they're both the DVCS utilities. One is hosted by Atlassian, and that's intended to the cloud, and that's intended to be for more small and medium companies or shops that just want to host their source publicly for whatever reason. And then Enterprise is the proprietary install that goes behind the firewall of the same product. Each one provides additional tools on top of the Git platform, like security, collaboration, reporting. So like the PR, the pull requests that we mentioned earlier, all of the functionality and features around that are value adds to the overall Git platform. And of course, reporting and integrations with the other systems that we mentioned. Now, SourceTree, it's just the desktop client for Windows or Mac that helps visualize all those Git capabilities. Git is a very, very powerful version control system and can be very esoteric. I can't lie, I've been using it for years, and I still keep the book open when things get a little bit strange and go sideways on me. But it's a lot. SourceTree just makes that a lot more approachable for beginners. And I think I mentioned in the webinar that when it comes to merge conflicts, I'll pull up in SourceTree and look at it graphically, even if I do go and fix it on the command line.
Cool. Well, you mentioned Docker. You touched on that in your presentation here. Somebody's asking to hear more about it and how it's used in the context of continuous integration and Bamboo specifically.
Okay, so I'll take this opportunity to plug our Docker webinar coming up on June the 15th again. But basically, it's a tool that lets us script these containers, which you can think of as sort of analogous to virtual machines, but it's not quite the same. But these can run parallel on any of our Bamboo Linux agents. And similar to VMs, it can make that one box act as many. So, for example, we can have multiple versions of Confluence running on one agent provisioned by one Bamboo plan, and be able to deploy and test our plugins against all of those in parallel with just one pull request. So it's really nice. I mean, we can make one change and make sure that we don't introduce regression problems into our backward compatibility. And essentially not have to do anything after the plan's been configured.
Our next question is, looking through the list here, we have a few more. Okay, here's a good one. How can we do automated testing in the Atlassian suite?
So that I kind of mentioned a little bit before in the previous answer about anything that uses command line, and you can configure a Bamboo plan or job to use. But you essentially can use a trigger. The ideal situation would be using a plugin for Bamboo called Charlotte that will run all your Selenium scripts. So if you have a long suite of Selenium scripts for your product, you can create a trigger that detects when any commits are made to your repository and immediately build your product and run all of those Selenium scripts against it instantaneously.
Cool. In your expert opinion here, somebody's asking about the dev tools.
Worth, right?
Yeah, for what it's worth. Somebody's asking about the dev tools and say, if my team is looking to, implement the dev tools from scratch, what goes into that? What might that take? Can you shed any light on, the kind of work, the effort that might be behind that?
So we're talking like a greenfield dev team that wants to do it right, start it off from scratch. Well, I mean, the first thing I do is say call Precipio Consulting, and they will definitely help you skip a few road bumps in that process that we've all hit from time to time in our careers. But the hub of all of this is JIRA. Really, I can't say enough about that product, and I've been using it for, I guess, 5 years now, and it just keeps getting better and better and more tightly integrated. At this point, I would, I guess you could call me a fanboy of the Atlassian products at this point, but the way I would start is start using JIRA, start using Git. It is the industry standard, and because of that, because of the integrations with JIRA, I would, if you haven't made a decision already, I would look very closely into Bitbucket. If you're a small team, you can get started with a bitbucket.org account and a JIRA Cloud account within a few minutes. I think they have free licenses for under 10 seats, so you can get started, get familiar with it, with the product, and as you grow, they have plans that grow with you. Those were the two that I would start with for sure. And the thing that I would add immediately after that would probably be Bamboo, just so that it may take a little bit of time to set that up initially, but the amount of time that it will save you and the consistency that it provides to your processes is well worth every penny or every minute you spend.
Great. And I can follow up with the person who asked that question if you'd like to hear a little bit more about, how we might be able to help. We've been doing these types of projects for, about a decade now. So definitely something we have a lot of experience with. Looks like we're coming down to our final question. Somebody asks, what actions in the dev tools can trigger an automatic workflow transition in JIRA?
Well, there's lots of options with that. The ones that come immediately to mind are when a pull request is created, or if it's declined, or when, let's just start from the beginning. When one of my guys, we start a sprint, one of my guys wants to begin work. He can drag that card in the Agile board manually from open to in progress. But what typically they do is they'll go in and create a feature branch with a couple of clicks from the JIRA issue into Bitbucket. That triggers a workflow trigger that moves that automatically from open to in progress. So, and that's sort of a nice way of being able to communicate, for those of us who are just watching the board, for instance, that this person has now begun work in that. And when they complete that task and they issue a pull request, you can create another workflow trigger that takes that same issue and moves it from the in progress to the done column. And of course, when that PR has been approved and merged, you could have yet another workflow trigger that moves that into the done column.
Great. Well, looks like that is all the questions that we have at this point. So unless anybody has any last minute things they'd like to lob over the fence, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap things up. So definitely appreciate all the good questions, and thank you, Stephen, for taking us through that. It's a great overview.
Oh, great to help.
So one more reminder about our next webinar here. It's going to wrap up our DevTools series with our very own Brian Robinson leading us on the topic of DevOps with the Atlassian suite. So B-Rob is going to delve into best practices and Atlassian product use cases for optimizing your development operations. That's going to take place on May 4th. May the 4th be with you at 11 a.m. Central. So be sure to register for that either on our website or from the link you'll receive in the email of today's webinar recording. And with that, thanks again, everybody, for joining us this morning. If something in this webinar piqued your interest and you want to hear more about how our Percipio Consulting expert team can get you improved processes and awesome software, feel free to email us at contact@percipio.com, or you can visit our website. There's a contact form on there. It's percipio.com. We'd love to talk to you about how we can help. So thanks again. We'll see you soon.